Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday night. It's supposed to be Crime Unveiled, but this isn't really a crime we're talking about tonight. I want to talk to you about a new bill that was proposed today in Lansing. I talked to the lawmaker who dropped off that House bill earlier today. It has to do with cell phones in schools. Now, the lawmaker tells me that this is not an all out ban. Instead, it's a restriction. I'm going to play some of my interview that I did earlier with him. So here's what he had to say.
There's a big misconception that this is a ban on cell phones. What it is, it's a restriction and time prohibition. And the legislation is in three parts.
And he says that it's in three parts. Now, what it does is it breaks down different grade levels. So it goes through kindergarten through fifth, sixth through eighth, and then that ninth through 12th grade. Here's what it would look like.
Kindergarten through five, leave your smart devices at home. You don't need those kind of distractions for elementary school kids. Six through eight, kids start to have more after school activities. You can use the cell phone up to the point, or your smart device up to the point that the morning bell rings. You can use it after the afternoon bell rings as well. And then 9 through 12, zero use during instruction time, zero use in the bathrooms, zero use in the locker rooms. You can use it while passing from one class to another in the hallway, in the cafeteria, before and after school.
And again, Representative Tisdale, who you were hearing from right there, he just dropped off this House bill that he has sponsored earlier this afternoon. So again, very early in the legislative process. Now, we do expect tomorrow night when Governor Gretchen Whitmer gives her State of the State address, we're being told that she is going to call on lawmakers for a bipartisan bill that would restrict cell phone use, kind of like what he has proposed right here. This is something that families have talked about. This is something that school districts have talked about. We've covered this over the last year. Flint Community Schools did a ban of cell phones last January when they came back from winter break. They also mandated clear backpacks. They have a no hoodie policy, but that cell phone thing, they said was going to help cut down on distractions and kids using social media in the classroom. Atherton Community Schools, they were one of the first districts in our area to ban those cell phones after airdrop messages were being distributed to kids in a classroom, and it ended up being what they called a threatening manner. So they just went out and banned all cell phones. Hammoney Middle School has a ban of cell phones right now. I talked to the principal at the beginning of the school year, and he said that the reason why was because they were seeing that kids were bringing their issues from social media and they were bringing them inside school. So there were fights going on. There were talks on, Snapchat, on TikTok as well. So school districts are making that decision right now. Something else that the lawmaker told me this afternoon is that there are school districts, not just here in Genesee County and in the mid-Michigan area, but in other areas and other communities across our state who have made the decision to ban them. He's not asking schools to ban cell phones in this bill. He says that this is just the baseline. This is a restriction, that it's not a one size fits all for all school districts when it comes to, restrictions and bans. He says the bans might work for one district, but not for another. So that's why this is the baseline. Again, this legislation was just dropped off today, so it still has a long way to go. He's really hoping right now that it gets to the education committee, the policy committee to, hear this legislation and then possibly a hearing as well. I'm going to pull up the Associated Press. So here's where there are states across the country right now that have an all out ban. They do not allow cell phones at all. So Florida was the first state to do this. They banned them in 2023. You can see California right here. That ban restriction, that doesn't take effect until July of 2026. You have Indiana right here. That took effect last summer in July. Ohio doesn't take effect until July of this year. And again, This Virginia one actually just took effect last month. Same with South Carolina. And you can see the states. So this has been talked about in Michigan for a while now, to have a possible ban. But again, now state lawmakers, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, which we expect to hear from her tomorrow during her State of the State address, they're not calling for a ban, they're calling for a restriction, and then leaving it up to school districts individually to decide maybe they do want to ban cell phones. Maybe it works out well for their district. I'm going to play some more sound from Representative Tisdale from earlier today.
The amount of time that students, tweens and teens in particular, spend on social media platforms, the amount of notifications, hundreds of notifications a day that are pulling their attention away from their classroom time, from the teachers at the front of the classrooms, from their textbooks. There's a time and place for this, but when we're trying to get our reading scores and our math scores back up, this just seems like simple common sense.
And again, this is the map from the Associated Press that you're looking at right now, and it lays out where bans are proposed, where policy recommendation, they are doing a pilot program in some states, and then where a statewide ban or restriction is happening right now or is going to happen in the coming months or possibly next year. The Pew Research Center actually published a study in October, and they found that 68% of adults supported a ban in middle and high school students from using their phones during instruction time. They did another study back in July, which found that high school teachers said that they believe 72% of high school teachers believe that phones were a major problem in the classroom. I know that some school districts in Michigan, they have all the students, walk into the classroom. The teachers have made the decision that they're going to walk in, they're going to drop off their phone in a cubby or, in a lockbox. I know some districts have invested in these lock boxes. And then at the end of that hour or that class period, they can get their phone, and then, some allow them to use it in the hallway or during lunchtime, during that passing time. But this bill right here in Michigan, it still has a long way to go. It was just dropped off today. So we'll continue to follow this story to bring you the very latest on this legislation. I'm sure that it's going to be a big talking point tomorrow during the State of the State address and in the coming days. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday night. We're Crime Unveiled with Courtney Bennett, but this isn't a crime. We're just talking about the proposed legislation, the proposed law of restricting cell phones in the classroom. Let me know if you support something like this, if you think that cell phones should or shouldn't be allowed in schools. Thanks again for joining us.